I don't think I've ever experienced so many screamy, loud, frolicky kids taking over the ship as I did on my Costa Smeralda cruise last summer. Ooh. It is Sunday, February 18th, 2024, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about cruising with no kids. Welcome back to the very unofficial travel guides. I'm Morgan. I've been making travel videos for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. During the week, I post travel vlogs from my adventures around the world, and every Sunday I sit down here at home and discuss some travel related topic. You already know what we're talking about this week, and for many of you out there, most of the things I'm gonna be talking about in this video, they're not gonna be new for you. But every once in a while, somebody new shows up at this channel who hasn't been on a cruise yet or doesn't know as much about cruising as the rest of us. And so most of this video is going to be for them. I know I've talked about this enough on this channel, but I'm going to be 50 in just like a month and a half. And that grumpy old man is slowly manifesting himself. I'm still young at heart. I still like to have a good time. I don't just hang out in museums and at lectures when I'm traveling or cruising, but I'm just realizing more and more that there are certain things that I really value when I'm traveling, and one of them is peace and quiet. And I think it's kind of a rule that the more children are someplace, the less quiet it will be. And from some recent comments, I have been inspired to go through my list of ways you can avoid being around a lot of kids or any kids while on a cruise. As always with these list related videos, some of them are gonna be like,
yeah, Morgan, we know that.
But there might be one or two where you say,
oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
And the first one will be, of course, cruising on a ship that does not allow kids. As far as mainstream cruise lines go, there aren't really a lot that have absolutely a no children allowed policy. I'm speaking of like mainstream, well-known, popular cruise lines that the average person, like I would consider myself to be, can afford to cruise on and would be interested in cruising on. And I guess the most popular one, and one that I have also experienced twice now, would be Virgin Voyages. Virgin Voyages is also one of the newest cruise lines and cruise brands out there. I wasn't sure if it was going to be something that I would really enjoy before we tried it. After my first Virgin cruise, I kind of thought, okay, well, that was interesting. And then I got the chance to try a second cruise, and that one was much more enjoyable, maybe because I knew more about what to expect. But Virgin Voyages is definitely a, let's say, pretty affordable cruise line where you can be sure that you will have no kids on board because the age limit is 18 and up. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not gonna run into adults acting like kids, but honestly, you're gonna find them everywhere. Another cruise line where you can be pretty sure to find no children would be Viking. And now Viking is famous for its river cruises, but they also do offer ocean cruises and these sort of expedition style cruises. And while I don't think that Viking is actually no kids allowed, you can be pretty sure that there's not gonna be any kids on board. And there are some other mainstream cruise lines that are very adult focused. The two most popular, I would say, would be Celebrity, and we just cruise with the Celebrity Equinox, and the other one would be Cunard. Not adults only, but I think on those two lines, you're gonna see a very small amount of kids, especially if you follow some of the other rules we're gonna talk about in this video. Holland America is of course also another popular cruise line that not only is very appealing to adults, but is kind of famous for attracting a very advanced generation of cruisers. And then you get to the luxury and ultra luxury brands like Explora, which is a new sort of market from MSC. Remember, just this summer, I went and saw the brand new Explora ship here in Hamburg. It looked very fancy from the outside, but when we looked at the website to see what it looks like inside, I kind of thought it just looked average. And then you have Azamara, Silversea, Seabourn, and others, and these cruise lines are so far out of my budget that they don't really come in question for me, and when I'm thinking of cruising, I never even bother looking to see what they have available. But I think if you are looking for a cruise where you can be almost positive that there's not gonna be a lot of kids or maybe any kids at all. Those would be a good bet if you have the money. Okay, another factor that is really gonna influence how many families with kids will be on board depends on when you cruise. I know this is another thing that's pretty self-evident or obvious, but if you cruise during spring break or Easter break or summer holidays or around Christmas, you are going to have a lot of kids on board, especially on ships like the bigger Royal Caribbean or the newer NCL ships where there are so many fun, family, children-based activities like go-karts and water slides and surfing and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are really great for kids on cruise ships. And so if you choose to cruise, or if you only can cruise at a time when the kids are not in school, then a lot of the kids who are not in school are going to be on a cruise ship. I don't need to tell you that, but I just thought, you know, since we're making the list, I'll mention it. And by the way, if you're planning a Mediterranean cruise and you're cruising on one of the more European-based brands like MSC or Costa, and they offer some great deals, but if you're cruising with one of those lines in the Mediterranean in the summer, there's going to be a lot of kids. I don't think I've ever experienced so many screamy, loud, frolicky kids taking over the ship as I did on my Costa Smeralda cruise last summer. Ooh. I think we should spend some time talking about adults-only areas on popular cruise ships. Most popular cruise lines have adults-only areas on their ships. I'm talking like Royal Caribbean, NCL. Disney actually has, the Disney ship that we were on, the Disney Dream, had a lot of adults-only space on board. And so if you are gonna be cruising with one of these mainstream cruise lines that do attract families, there are places you can go that are dedicated adults only. My experience has been usually there's not really anybody enforcing it, and there's always that one family, and as soon as you have one kid in the adults only area, then everybody just kind of thinks, well, if they have their kid there, then we can have our kid here, and poof, it's no longer adults only. Speaking of Disney, I think that was one of the best enforced adults only areas that we've experienced on a cruise ship. So a Disney cruise is always gonna be full of families, but if you do wanna go on a Disney cruise, just wanted to mention that there are well-enforced, large adults only areas. The final 2 points are ones that you might not have thought of before. They're kind of connected to each other in a way. But before we get to that, I'd just like to take a minute to ask you for a little bit of support. I would love to get this channel to 100,000 subscribers this year. So if you've watched this far, please consider subscribing if you haven't done it already. It would be great if you could help me get to that goal. And if you like to read and are interested in giving me a little extra support, check out my book. It's called Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. It's available on Amazon now. Final 2 points on this list both have to do with spending more money. And the first one is gonna be, some ships have a ship within a ship suites area. I think the most popular being the NCL Haven or the MSC Yacht Club. And by the way, the MSC Yacht Club is much more affordable than the Haven. And I think families with small kids tend to not end up in these sort of luxury accommodations within the ship, but that's not a guarantee. When we stayed in the yacht club on MSC, there was one family with kids, and those kids were exactly not the kind of kids you wanted to have in the Haven. So it's not a guarantee, but it could increase your chances of having a kid-free cruise, at least for the time that you spend in the enclosed area. And then the final thing that I can tell you, if you do want to or have to cruise with Royal, NCL, Carnival, those ships, it's kind of a rule that the longer the cruise is, the more expensive it is, or the more exotic the destination is, then there's probably gonna be less families with kids on board. I think cruising to Alaska in May when the kids are still in school, that's gonna be a pretty kid-free option. A Mediterranean cruise at the beginning of the summer or the very end of the summer. Also, pretty kid-free cruise. Something like an expedition cruise up to the North Pole or South Pole, or going through the Panama Canal, you know, some of these cruises, or a transatlantic cruise that is like 16 days long. A cruise that is somehow longer and more exotic, gonna give you better chances of having less kids on board than a cruise that's like from Friday to Monday during school break. How did I do? What do you think? Are there more tips that I could give people about how to increase your chances of getting on a ship where there's gonna be less or no kids? As always, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this as well. Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, now comes the time on Sunday Sofa Time where I comment on your comments live on air. I just recorded like 5 minutes of me commenting on the comments and realized the camera wasn't on, so I'm starting over. In last week's Sunday Sofa Time, I talked about the things that I did not hate on our cruise on the Independence of the Seas. And if you're asking yourself, why don't you just say things that you loved about the Independence of the Seas? It's because I'm playing that YouTube algorithm. Check out all the videos about cruising on YouTube right now that are getting 100,000, 200,000 views because YouTube is pushing them to so many people's feeds. Most of them are still with some kind of scandalous negative word in the title. I'm hoping they'll notice me too. So these comments are on that video. The first one is from Lisa Anderson. She writes, "Ooh, I'm excited for the upcoming all-inclusive content. There's a lot of cruise content out there.
Can say that again.
But I feel like AIs deserve some love too." So if you want to know all the details, sign into your Patreon account at patreon.com/veryunofficial. And sometime in the next few weeks, I will be telling you everything that we're going to be doing on this exotic location off the coast of Africa. It's going to be a little bit different, but I'm ready for some different. Next comment is from Matt M. Matt writes, "Hi Morgan, the Dragon Coaster is self-limited. I did the run without brakes, and you can see my poor video, and I could feel the car slowing me down in places. The zip line looked awesome. Thanks for the always entertaining videos." Thanks for that comment. And yeah, in the video that my sister and I made on Labadee, we did the Dragon Coaster together, sitting both in one sled, and she was like, "Just do the whole thing with no brakes." And we got halfway through it, and I thought, there's no way I'm doing this with no brakes. So if you go back a couple videos on the channel, you can see us plummeting down the side of the mountain in Labadee. And Matt is saying something that my sister said as well, that if you do go with no brakes, there's some kind of braking system on the tracks that will slow you down anyways. Next time, Matt, next time.
Brakes are for wimps.
Final comment is from DMJN8SM. I've said this before, but in the YouTube Creator app, it doesn't show me like your channel name. It shows me whatever weird name YouTube gave you when you signed up. Sorry. So DMJN8SM writes, "Yes, you're right, Morgan. On Wonder of the Seas, I told my friend there's a piano in the elevator, and he said,
'You're drinking too much.'
But he saw it, and it was very entertaining." In my upcoming ship tour video, which is going to be going online this week, I talk more about the surprise piano elevator player. This is something I've only seen twice in all my cruising career, but he was very active on the Independence of the Seas. I think on this short, like 5-day cruise, I saw him 2 or 3 times. So just a cool little Easter egg. All right, everybody, it's time to wrap this up. I hope you have a great Sunday or whatever day it is you choose to watch this. More videos from the Independence of the Seas coming up soon, including the cabin tour and the ship tour. So make sure you check back, and I hope to see you here soon. Bye-bye.